The Minister of Turkey, Leela, is with us. Leela, it's interesting. If we rewind a few days, the Foreign Minister of Turkey in Qatar with Ismail Haniyeh. Now, well, certainly Haniyeh is meeting with Recep Tayyip Erdogan. It's not a coincidence what's going on.
It's not a coincidence, and timing is critical here. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan is the former Turkish intelligence chief. This man knows a thing or two about the region, and he knows all the players in the region. And when he was in Doha, in the Qatari capital, he had a joint press conference with the Qatari foreign minister, who's also the prime minister. And at this joint press conference, the Qatari prime minister had a bit of a shocker announcement. Standing next to Hakan Fidan, Sheikh Mohammed said that Qatar is reevaluating its role as a negotiator in the Israel-Hamas conflict. And he sounded piqued. He said that Qatar's role as a negotiator was being abused for narrow political interests. You see, Gavin, what's happening is that this comes amidst a backdrop of tremendous pressure on Qatar. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has not masked what he thinks about Qatar. He's publicly called Qatar problematic. In January, Netanyahu said something sarcastic like, if Qatar could be so good as to release the hostages from Gaza, of course, without any pause in the fighting. The Israelis fear that Qatar is soft on Hamas, and so they will not achieve their goal of destroying Hamas, whatever that means. Echoes of it in the U.S. as well. Earlier this month, Republican Senator Ted Budd introduced a bill that would have Qatar revoke its status as a major non-NATO ally. Now this status enables the U.S. to have bases, joint military exercises, and a lot of military cooperation. And this bill asks that Qatar be denied this status unless it throws out Hamas. So this pressure was considerably building. But the fact that Qatar makes this announcement while standing next to the Turkish former intelligence chief and foreign minister gave a signal to people in the region that was Qatar sort of handing over the baton, the mediator baton to Turkey, because handing that baton to Turkey is quite another matter altogether.
It's a really good point, because if we look at what's playing out at the moment, all of those attempts to which you talk about frustration from Israel, more than frustration, to, outwardly saying, Qatar released the hostages, that's going further. But Qatar, ultimately, the only success when it comes to a ceasefire was mediated through Qatar. So unpalatable as it may be, it's in a unique position. As you say, Turkey in a unique position with those relations with Hamas as well. But I think many would see President Erdogan as a very unlikely mediator.
Completely unlikely. Erdogan has not minced his words. In fact, they've been pretty inflammatory about supporting the Palestinian cause. Remember, Erdogan's facing domestic pressure on this. If you remember last month, there was the elections for the Istanbul and Ankara mayoral elections. The secular candidates won. But what happened...
A big loss, big embarrassment for Erdogan.
This is true. But the big shocker of that announcement was that the Islamist vote was split, because the third biggest victor was an Islamist party, a far more hard-right Islamist party. It's called the New Welfare Party, the YRP. And they ran on a platform of saying that Erdogan is not doing enough to help the Palestinian brethren, because trade between Israel and Turkey increased after the October 7th attacks. And weeks after that, the two countries imposed trade barriers. So, we hear Erdogan's talk on the external side, but he's facing domestic pressures as well. And the thing about Qatar is that, Qatar actually paid Hamas's salaries before the October 7th attacks. And these payments were allowed by Israel. And a lot of Netanyahu's critics say that, these payments were enabled. Qatar has negotiated past ceasefire deals. It's been aiding Hamas. And it's been helped by Israel because they say that Netanyahu wants to keep the Palestinian movement split. And, and now we have Ismail Haniyeh, the political leader in Turkey, and Erdogan calling for Palestinian unity. But what this leaves ceasefire hopes is worse than before, because there's no way Israel is going to listen to Turkey, and this undermines the US's already broken reputation as an honest broker. So, as always, the Palestinians suffer.
It's really interesting. And